the Rogers Review. Please go first.
All right, Emilia, it's great talking to you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Now, my question to you is, was it daunting to go knowing that how much preparation did you require from learning sign language to singing for the role of Ruby Rossi?
So I trained when I didn't have any ASL experience prior to shooting. So when I found out that I got the part, I went straight into intense training, and I learned sign language for 9 months before we started shooting. I was filming a Netflix show at the time in Toronto, so I only had the weekends, but I was always like finger spelling in between takes and things. But yeah, I had an amazing teacher out in Toronto, Anselmo de Souza, and he was so patient, and he didn't just teach me ASL, he also taught me all about deaf culture. And then I got to Massachusetts and worked closely with the ASL directors, Anne Tomasetti and Alexandra Wales, and they really, really, really pushed me. And I love a challenge, so I wanted to be pushed. And then obviously Troy, Daniel, and Marlee really took me under their wing and helped me grow. And then singing too, I was in the choir at school. I'm kind of always humming around the house. And I did a musical in the West End when I was about 8 years old. So I always sing, but I'd never done anything at the skill that was required for CODA. So it was a little bit daunting, but again, I had singing lessons for about, 9 months, 8 months. And I just loved the challenge, and I loved learning. You know, it's not every day that you learn 3 skills. I guess I learned how to fish too. So it's not every day that you're given that opportunity. So I felt very, very grateful.
Thank you.
David, watch your pass. You may go ahead.
Hey, so I guess I'll follow up on Dean's question. I read in the notes that, towards the end, you even put your own flourishes on your character's sign. So, I guess, was that just kind of natural as you grew more into the character, or did you really want to like put your own stamp on, Emilia as an individual, or how did that work out?
I was really grateful and lucky because Siân and the ASL directors and everybody, they wanted it to really be a collaboration. So I was able to kind of, add to signs and check to see if, this sign was better than this sign. And there's actually, so in the film, when Ruby's music teacher, Mr. V, asks her how she feels when she sings, Siân came up to me and she said, I don't want to come up with a sign when Ruby's describing how she feels. I want it to come from you. You know this character better than anyone else. So I went away and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, pressure's on. I went away, I had to think about how Ruby feels and why she loves singing so much. And then I came in the next day and I met with Anne Tomasetti, who was the ASL director, as I said. And I said, okay, this is what I want to get across. And I signed what I wanted to say, and Anne kind of laughed, and I was like, and she said, you're signing that you have indigestion. And I was like, no. And so she helped me. So it was, I knew what I wanted to say, and then she kind of bounced off that, and we kind of came up with it together, and then we showed Siân, and Siân burst into tears. So I was just grateful that I had that kind of freedom, and I was learning, and Troy is an amazing improviser. So when we were doing scenes with the family, a lot of it was kind of improvised. So I was grateful that I could kind of join in.
Patrick, Slug Magazine, you may go ahead. Patrick, you are muted. I'm sorry.
There we go. Sorry. So I saw this film twice at Sundance and just fell in love with it. When I reviewed the film, I compared your performance to Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone and Haley Steinfeld in True Grit in terms of wow, a new superstar has arrived moment. Did you feel that going into this, that Ruby was a game-changing role for your kind of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of role? And how did that make you feel?
I mean, when I read the script, I immediately thought whoever gets to play this role is incredibly lucky, because it's not every day, where you learn 3 skills. It's a film, in a different language, and there's a range of emotions to play. I was able to, do loads of research and talk to coders. So I knew that I was lucky when I was cast, and I couldn't believe it, and I was so grateful. I mean, I honestly, I'm very humble, I guess. I just, you know, when people started to like the film, I was like, oh, I'm so happy for everyone that they liked the film. I just, I don't, I guess I don't, I just think people are being kind when they say that they like it or they liked my performance. I'm terrible at taking compliments. But I was just, yeah, so grateful that I was given this opportunity because roles like this really don't come along very often.
Thank you.
Ed McNulty, visual parable, you may go ahead. And you are muted, so I'm going to go ahead and request unmute. Thank you.
Hello. I'm wondering, had you seen Children of a Lesser God before you took this role, or read the script, or and if what did you think of it, and especially how was it like to play opposite Marlee?
Marlee is one of my favorite people ever. She is so kind. She's so generous. And she also, the minute she steps on set, the whole atmosphere changes. And when you're in a scene with her, you can hear a pin drop. Like, it's honestly, she's absolutely mesmerizing. And I was always in awe. I was constantly always watching her, you know, like taking things from her, learning from her. She kind of was like a mother to me. She was always checking that I was warm enough and I was eating enough. And she's an amazing cook. So she always would cook for us on the weekends. I think honestly, you know, we were very lucky with this kind of bond and this family dynamic that we all just had. But also we were in this tiny fishing town and didn't know anyone. So we kind of only had each other. So every weekend Marlee would cook amazing meals. We would all meet up and watch the football. So I was really grateful for Marlee, and she's still helping me. You know, it's a world and a culture that I'm new to, and I'm still learning. And she's just been such an amazing role model for me.
Thank you.
And Stephen from the Christian Science Monitor, you may go ahead.
Hello, Emilia. Greetings from Boston.
Hi,
It was
yeah,
great.
Boston.
It's great to see you in a Bruins top in the movie.
Yeah.
The movie strikes me as it's being a lot about resilience. And I'm wondering, for you, what is the most difficult part of making this movie, the most challenging part? And so what can this movie teach viewers about resilience and perseverance, and where it comes from, and what fuels it, what inspires it?
That's a great question. This film actually taught me that I was a lot more resilient than I thought, and that I was a lot more, I guess, hardworking. And I'm always working hard, but it really taught me that I don't shy away from a challenge, because this film, it changed my life, and it allowed me to grow as a person and learn a lot. But it was very, very, very difficult and very challenging. I guess the most challenging, I mean, each skill was kind of challenging in its own way. As I said, I'd never done anything like at the skill that was required for CODA singing wise. So that was daunting to me, because I also auditioned with Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, and I did this kind of gentle cover on my guitar, and then I turned up for my first singing lesson, and I was given Etta James and Aretha Franklin and these women, like, their voices of they're adults, they're fully grown, and I was 17 when I shot this movie, so I was like, oh goodness, I was a bit nervous. So that was challenging, and all the vocals were recorded live on set as well. And also, every time we shot a singing scene, it happened to be like at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I don't think anyone sounds good at that early hour, but I was lucky with the music team that I had. They were so great, and kind of, I guess, gave me the confidence that I needed. Sign language is obviously challenging. I sign a lot in the film, and I knew that, it's Ruby's first language. So I knew that I needed to be as fluent as possible. But I'd say the hardest and the most challenging part of CODA, I mean, the most challenging scene, I guess, there were two. I'm going to pick two. I'm going to be greedy. The first one was both sides now, when I'm singing and signing, because when you're doing both at the same time, say if you have 4 takes, but the sign language is only perfect in 1 take, they can only use that one. So suddenly you're just getting 1 take at your close up of, the end scene in the film. So it's quite daunting, because, you know that you have to kind of go into it and make sure that you're tonally correct, and your singing is as in tune as possible, and because it was live, and then obviously that your signing is accurate. And then also, I guess, when I was interpreting in scenes, for instance, with the fishing officials in the town hall, I had to learn my lines, speaking and signing. I had to learn Troy's lines in, dialogue and in sign, so I knew when I could speak for him. Same with Daniel, and obviously I had to learn the fishing officials' lines in sign language. So I kind of went into a scene knowing everybody's lines in sign language and dialogue.
Mm.
Kenneth, Arts and Faith, you may go ahead.
Hello, Emilia. I was wanting to ask a follow-up question. Could you just amplify a little bit on your answer about the range of emotions? You mentioned one of the things you liked about the part was the range of emotions. What do you see as some of the emotions in the range, and were any of them easier or harder for you to, peg?
Well, yeah, I think, being a coder, from the coders that I spoke to, it's a very layered situation. People sometimes think, the parents are putting the pressure on their child, but actually it's not that. Coders have, they grow up signing for their parents, and that's what they're good at. I think in the film you can see that Ruby is kind of like two people in a way. At school she's shy, she's not very confident, and then when she's signing for a family, she's really confident. It's her thing. It's actually shown in the scene when Ruby interrupts Leo selling fish. She kind of marches up and she gets involved, and Leo's like, I've got this, like, can you, step away? But Ruby doesn't. It's her thing. I guess from some of the coders I spoke to, it's kind of like a sense of power in a way. It's what they're good at, it's what they've done all their lives. So I knew that I had to kind of show both sides of Ruby. And that was, layered. And I guess also you meet her and she's tired and she's kind of at breaking point, but then also you have to show that she finds his passion and it makes her happy. You have to see that she lights up when she sings. And then I guess also that kind of torn, she wants to pursue her dreams, but she's also not done anything without her family before. It's, it's that moment in childhood when you have to kind of separate from the people you love and figure out who you are outside of your childhood identity. So I guess that was the range of emotions.
Steve, Screenfish.
Hi, Emilia. Thanks so much. It's a remarkable film. You're wonderful in it, and it really is one of those special stories. It's so charming. I was wondering about your process in preparation, and you were talking before. First of all, shout out from Toronto.
I'm heading on Monday.
Well, one of the things I was wondering is, with your experience in preparation, was there anything in particular that you learned about deaf culture that really shaped or changed you in any way?
A lot of things, actually, filming changed me. Deaf culture, and all the interpreters who were coders on our film set, and Troy, Daniel, and Marlee, and all our deaf consultants, they really taught me communication. They taught me that it's so important, eye contact. I feel like nowadays, phones, like you're always on your phone and, oh, can I get this? Or, oh, yeah, no, sure. And I think, especially Daniel, someone would bring him something, so let's say a water, and he'd look up, he'd give, the person his everything, all his attention, and he'd look them in the eye and he'd thank them. And watching that, I thought, why don't we do that? Why have we stopped doing that? So I guess deaf culture taught me a lot about communication, and also little things like you can't ever stand backlit because they can't see your facial expressions and things. And that was totally, we had to redo all the furniture in the house because it wasn't how a deaf family would live. And that was, I just didn't think about that. I started to pick up some things too. I would drive my mum mad actually, because say if I got out of the shower, I would never like shout from room to room. I'd like walk all wet through the house and like, what are we having for dinner? And I was like, it taught me a lot. And yeah, I was just so grateful. And there was so many things, I think, when I went into this, project, I knew that I had to learn ASL, but you know, I have had to, it's like being deaf is so much more than ASL. It's an experience that no hearing person will ever fully understand. So I was grateful that I was surrounded by all these amazing people, and deaf consultants and the deaf directors and Troy, Daniel, and Marlee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dwayne Patheos.
Hi, Emilia. It's great to talk to you. I love the movie. My girls are big, huge fans of Lock and Key too. So
Oh, no way.
I know they're thrilled to talk to you. Thrilled that I'm talking to you today. You know, we talk a lot, or there's been a lot said about, and I know Hollywood's making a very big effort for diversity and inclusion. And this is an inclusion of a different community that is underrepresented in entertainment. How do you feel about being part of bringing their story to the world?
Well, after talking to Siân before I got the role, I just loved that she wanted there to be such an emphasis on authenticity. I loved that she wanted deaf actors for these roles. And I also love that, you know, this is a movie about a deaf family and a culture that's rarely seen on screen, but it's about a family, you know, they're not solely defined by being deaf, which I also loved. You know, it's a film, it's about the family dynamic, everybody can relate. So that's kind of what drew me to the project. And I just love how Siân spoke about it. But, you know, CODA is not representing a universal deaf or CODA experience. This is just one. So there are so many more stories out there. So I'm hoping that, you know, some people maybe after seeing this film will want to tell more stories like this.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm glad your girls like Lock and Key.
Sister Rose.
Sister Rose isn't on that. This is Sister Nancy.
Sorry, Sister Nancy. Then you may go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
How you doing? It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Thank you, Emilia. It's a lovely film. I saw it at Sundance, and I just could never say enough about it. So,
oh, good. I'm so glad.
It's definitely was my favorite film from Sundance. And I just want to get something from you. Like, what do you hope people will receive from this film? What is your greatest hope that the audience will understand and feel? And especially maybe from that scene at the Berkeley audition.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mentioned, you were signing and singing at the same time, but the song had such meaning.
Oh, so much meaning.
What would you say you hope people get away from that? Because that was one of the most emotional scenes for me, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you say, you know, it was an emotional scene for you. The take that Siân actually chose in the movie, I messed up in because we filmed that scene towards the end of filming. I have never felt so close to a cast before. We were like a family, and this film meant so much to me, and I'd worked so, you know, for so long on it, and it was coming to an end. And, you know, in the movie when I sign, I love you, and I look up at my family, and I looked up at them and I got emotional, and I kind of changed the melody because I got a bit sad, and it ended up being the take they used. In terms of taking away, I hope that people can relate to this story. You know, I think it's coming out at a time where people have been forced to be apart from their loved ones, or, you know, they've been reunited or reconnected. You know, for me, I'd been away filming for a year, and the pandemic like ensured that I went home, and I'm so close to my family. So it was, you know, lovely to see them and to spend time. I guess also, as I said before, you know, when people watch it, I hope that, you know, they want to learn more and they want to know more about this culture and about this language. I know a couple of my friends that have watched the movie, you know, are now asking me, oh, how do you sign this? Because there's this deaf woman that works in the shop, and I want to tell her that I have my own bags, and I want to ask her how her day is. And, you know, since seeing the movie, it made me so happy, and I hope that people really want to learn more about this culture and this language, and even, you know, tell stories and you know, make it, you know, make movies and things, and so people can see it on screen again. If I'm talking about Both Sides Now, it was the perfect song. Siân and I were talking about this the other day, actually. Siân was watching a Joni Mitchell documentary, and Joni was saying that Both Sides Now was the work of her childhood's end. You know, she said she was meditating on fantasy and reality, like childlike optimism and adult reality. And, you know, Ruby's coming to the end of her childhood. She is at that moment in life where she has to kind of separate and find the confidence to try something new and to learn and be on her own. So I thought it was the perfect song to choose, and which is probably why I got emotional, because I could relate to all the lyrics.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
John, the LA writer.
Hi, Emilia. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You mentioned the family dynamic as being something that drew you to this project and the importance of family in your life. As an artist, how, when you read this script, what drew you to this particular story? What do you look for in a story as an artist?
I think when I read a script, I look for something that's going to educate me and challenge me, and I guess help me grow as an actor, but also as a person. I feel like I learn so much from every role or film or TV show that I do. Even theatre, when I did a couple of plays when I was younger in the West End, and I learned so much doing that too, you know. So I guess what drew me to this was the challenge. I knew that it was going to be very, very, very hard, and that excited me. I knew that I was totally out of my comfort zone, which also I was excited for. I guess also, as I said, I'm close to my family, and I fell in love with the Rossis. I loved that they were dysfunctional and relatable. I loved Ruby. I loved that she's a deep, complex character. And honestly, I spoke to Siân before I was cast, and I just loved how she spoke about the movie. So I was dying to work with her. And she is an incredible director. I absolutely adore her as a person, and as a director, she taught me so much.